Hello and welcome to Mellow Labs. On today's episode, I found this adorable little train in a local charity shop for £3.50 and I thought I can probably make something smart out of that. So I bought it and now I have to figure out what I want to do with it. But first, it needs a good clean. It is very dirty. So let's start by taking it apart. So I did some digging into this train and the company behind it. It was made by Echo Toys Limited, a Hong Kong-based toy manufacturer that started in the early 80s. They specialized in battery-operated trains with functions like real smoke effects and working headlights, and they produced these throughout the late 80s and 90s. As far as I can tell, the company website is completely dead, and there are a few companies with a similar-ish name listed in Hong Kong, but none of them appear to be the same Echo Toys Limited, so the company is either completely dissolved or under a completely different name now. As far as I can deduce, these trains have been produced from around 1988 onwards, and you can still pick these up on eBay for relatively cheap. I kind of hoped for a little bit of a more interesting history, but that's what we get. I knew it had some kind of electronics inside of it because it's got an on and off switch, a battery compartment, and one of those wheelie things that those toys have that kind of just run around and scream. But I didn't know the chimney had a thing in it. And the only instructions at the bottom are to put oil in it, but it doesn't specify what kind of oil. So I'm gonna connect my bench power supply and see if it does anything interesting. Oh. It's smoking. Is it supposed to be smoking? Okay, so the smoke is intentional. So far, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna keep disassembling it because it's still very dirty, so let's continue. I've disassembled it as far as I'm willing to disassemble it. I'm not taking off each of the gold accents because they're held in with those weird clippy thingies. Everything on here is either held in by screws, clippy thingies, or is heat welded. Also, every screw is different. This has so many different kinds of screws. Why do you make it so annoying? Right, I'm gonna wash these, so join me in the shower. Don't worry, I will be clothed. I'm gonna go ahead and ignore whatever is happening behind me there and tell you about today's sponsor, JLCPCB, who provides easy, affordable and reliable PCB and PCBA services, empowering engineers like us to bring our projects to life. What I love the most about JLCPCB is how easy the ordering process is. You just drag and drop your Gerber files into the site and you get an instant quote, and after selecting all the different things you want to do with your PCB, you can click order and the whole thing just takes minutes, and you can track your order at every step of the way in real time. And let's talk about affordability. You can get 1 to 8 layer PCBs starting from just $2, all thanks to their efficient large-scale production in their 5 state-of-the-art factories. But cheap doesn't mean compromising on reliability. With their in-house production, they maintain strict quality control at every step, and if you need boards fast, they offer lightning-quick turnaround times in just 24 hours. And right now, JLCPCB has a special offer for 6-layer PCBs. You can get a $30 coupon which brings down the price of a 6-layer top quality PCB down to just $5, and they're also including an ENIG finish, and they're waiving the engineering fee for a V-Rin pad. So sign up with the link in my description and get $60 in new user coupons. Thank you again to JLCPCB, and now back to this. Do you really think that's going to keep them more engaged than the meditation? Oh boy. Whilst I'm waiting for everything to dry in the bathtub, I've been playing around with this steam generatey / motion part of the thing. Now, I don't actually care about the motion part, but I do quite like the steam part. So I refilled it using some 3-in-1 oil. It seems to be doing the trick. I have no idea if this is healthy for me at all, but if I plug this in, it's going to be loud. I do apologize. So we have steam or smoke coming out from down here, and there's another one of those down here. And the funny thing is, if I unplug this bit, the steam actually stops. And I think it's actually kind of broken because I think it's supposed to be both sucking and blowing into this tube, depending on timing, I assume. Because when I blow into this tube when it's running, we have steam that comes out the top bit, and I think that's supposed to be coming out the chimney, but it isn't. So I think there's something in here that's broken that's supposed to be causing smoke to come out the top. I'm gonna disassemble this and see if I can fix the blowy sucky thingy. Okay, so I think I more or less understand how this actually works now, and it is broken. I'm not sure why, but whenever I put this lid back on, the mechanism doesn't want to work. It might have something to do with the fact that some of the gears are cracked, or the fact that the lube on here is actually like pretty solid. Doesn't matter. I think I know how it works. So this motor is what spins the fan, and also a gear on the bottom, which is what actually makes it move around, but that doesn't matter. The fan is what spins around and creates the vacuum and the blowiness, which then, the fan sits in here, but then the whole gearing here also spins this little guy, which is kind of like a carriage for this pin to sit on top of, and rides up and down with this mechanism, pushing it up and down in a specific pattern, which then pushes up this little copper piece, which does two things. Number one, it turns on the little light that was on the front of the train, so it makes it glow, but also it opens up this gap here, which kind of redirects where the fan gets air from. So I think if I put this back, and now if I lift this up, hopefully we should have smoke come out the chimney.
That was adorable.
That completely threw me off track. I have no idea what to do now. I still want to completely redo the actual motion part of this, because I don't care for it to just kind of go back and forth. I actually kind of want to make it remote control, because I think that'd be pretty cool. But now I have to figure out how to make it remote control and also keep all of this, so... Okay, so it's the next day. I've been busy. So here's what I've come up with. I've 3D printed a thing. So I've got a servo on this bit, which is the bit that pushes up the pin, right? So that goes up and down like that. So now when I put this on here, that pushes up the little metal bit. So now if I power it up, yeah, I'm still working on the part how this attaches to this, but it works. Okay, good news. I'm basically done with this entire piece. So I 3D printed the bottom plate, which holds the motor and the servo, and that pushes the pin up like I showed previously. That attaches to this resonance chamber with these toothy thingies. That just has an M3 screw inside of it, and it's in a threaded heat inset at the bottom here, and that does a pretty good job of holding it in there. And then for the actual smoke part, I replaced the tube with a new one because the other one was very crappy, but I had to reprint these little connectors that actually connect it to the rest of the thing. So I've just super glued them onto here, connected the pipe, and then I've had to super glue a different 3D printed one that basically adjusts for the curve of the part there. Oh, and I've replaced the wires from the smoke thing and then wired it directly to the motor, because I'm basically going to be running these both at the same time anyway, so that seemed like a good thing to do. So now if I power this up, we get smoke coming out of there. The next step is for me to actually figure out how I'm making the rest of the train RC. So the first thing I actually want to figure out is how I'm going to use these wheels to actually turn the train, because I don't want to end up having to make like a 40-point turn just to, actually turn. So I have an unfortunate tendency with projects like this to go with the path of least resistance, which is exactly what I did here. Instead of having the wheels turn individually, instead I just did this. So I put a little set of wheels that are actually from the train. I got them from this round thing that actually propelled the train before, but I put it on a servo arm thing, which then attaches to the chassis like that, using the original holes. So I only had to cut out a little bit of material, and everything else attaches with original screws. So this should do the job and is much simpler. Whether it's actually properly going to work, I don't know. I've been testing it kind of just going back and forth like this, and it seems to be turning properly, but we won't know until we actually get the back wheels powered and, see what it actually does with that. Here's what I've come up with. I've got an N20 motor inside of this plastic thing, which kind of just drops in here. The N20 motor connected through some gears to the axle of the wheels here that came with the train. Now, I don't think I've got a very good connection because this is basically just going to slide around if there's too much friction on here, but it's not been a problem so far, and I don't think it's going to be a problem anytime soon. I am going to put some kind of like TPU socks on these wheels for a little more traction, but for now, let's just do some testing. Okay, so this does actually work. I wish I could test it on a slightly bigger surface. So here's what I've ended up with. I've got an ESP32C6 connected to a motor driver and to the servo, and I've got a little web UI running that I can connect to with my phone, and that lets me control the wheels and go backwards and forwards. And I also printed out these little TPU tire thingies that give it a lot more traction than just the solid wheels themselves, and it seems to actually kind of work. Let me put it on the floor. It works. There's just some very obvious issues that we have to tackle. Number one is going to be power delivery, because it's currently running off of a regular power bank, so it doesn't actually have enough power to power the motor and the servo at the same time. So when it's going around corners, it's actually slowing down quite drastically, but that's fine. I've already ordered some batteries. They're on the way. The next thing is the script that's running on here. It's pretty poopy. The joystick mapping is weird, and also it gets overwhelmed very easily, but that's not what I'm planning to run for the final version. I'm planning to have like a little remote or something, but for testing it works great. The traction isn't great. This is very light. There's not a lot of weight or downforce on these actual wheels, so they slip very easily, but you know, with all the plastic and stuff that still needs to be added in here, that's not going to be a problem in the future. I would like to solve the power problem right now, but since I don't have the batteries, I think I'm gonna move back to the chimney and actually figure out a way of mounting it here, because there needs to be like a standoff that holds it just above where the chimney goes. So let's figure out what I need to do to make this go here without it being annoying. I didn't set out to make it look like a little horsey, but it looks like a little horsey. So I've had to remodel the entire bit that attaches to this whole chamber part because of a couple of reasons. First of all, I need it to be at the right height so that when I put it in here, it actually lines up with the chimney and everything. And then the bottom actually has to fit into the base, into where the original screws were, and it fits in perfectly. And when I put this on, it's all perfect height so that it fits in just the way it's supposed to. I've had to remodel this whole part as well, mostly because the little teeth I had on the side holding it down actually made it a little too wide to fit inside of here. So I just remodeled it so that I'm now holding it from the back and from the front. And also this whole area is actually sunk in so that it sits in there nice and comfortably. So like now this doesn't move a wiggle, so I'm happy with that. And whilst this was printing, I decided to work on other stuff in the background, so I reprogrammed the ESP32 for the carriage to work with this remote, which is the remote for my little Star Wars droid. It uses ESP-NOW, so now these two communicate over ESP-NOW, and you know, it gives me the luxuries of ESP-NOW, which is pretty quick connectivity. So there we go, and left and right. So if I actually put this on the ground, I'm still waiting for the actual battery I want to use for this to arrive. So I need you to pretend to be impressed because I still have the same issues as I had previously, but we can go backwards and we can go forwards, and we may even attempt to turn. Yeah, it's a power delivery issue. I'm waiting for the new battery. It should solve all the problems. Let's continue solving problems I've created for myself one at a time. I want to add these wheels back on, but currently there's a problem. The middle hole is blocked by the thing that holds the smokestack. This one is fine. This one is blocked by the servo that actuates the smokestack. So I need to figure out how to put these wheels back in, mostly because it doesn't look right without them. And I do still want them to move. So we need to figure out how to put the wheels back, along with all the linkages that connect them together, and how to make them move. So I did something stupid, and I'm mad at myself. I was wiring in the fan and the heating element that makes the smoke, and I didn't think about this, but I was powering it with 5 volts. And the heating element is designed for, well, like 3 volts. So I burnt out the heating element that generates the smoke. I thought I could fix it, so I opened it up, and I kind of could fix it, but the heating element was like itsy bitsy, and I put it on my fingernail and it's gone now. As far as I see it, I have 2 options. I can go to the store and pick up a disposable vape and just get the wire out of that, or I can replace the whole smoke element with one of those ultrasonic module thingies. One of these little guys. I have a whole video about these. I'll leave it linked in the corner thing. I was already kind of planning to use this before I knew that this had like smoke effects. So I'm gonna go with this because I don't want to go to the store and buy vape things just for this. I need to figure out a way on how to have this in water so that it does the vapey thing without it spilling all over the place. It also runs on 5 volts, so that's convenient. It's just kind of a pain. Also, I kind of like the smell of this. It's kind of, I don't know, burny oil. It's kind of nostalgic in a way. Yeah, right, let's figure out a way of mounting this in the chimney. My mouse pad is completely covered in water, but I got it working and it actually looks better than I anticipated. I was worried that it wasn't going to look substantial enough that, you know, you wouldn't be able to see it properly, but no, it actually looks pretty good, especially like once it's on the move. I think it's gonna look really nice. So the way I actually made this is, originally I was going to just remake the entire chimney and 3D print it, but then I realized 3D prints aren't particularly watertight, so without any kind of coating. So instead I just chopped off the top of the chimney and I 3D printed this bit to just hold the piezo module and the little sucky spongy thingy. And in there is just a well of water. I actually fed the cables through the bottom and then just filled it in with some hot glue so that it doesn't leak. But there's enough space for me to lift this, put water in, and maybe do maintenance. It doesn't have the nicest fit on the top of the chimney. It kind of pops off, but I feel like I can reprint this with like slightly better fitment and then just swap it out. It's actually pretty easy to do. My next step is to just wire this into the actual electronics so that I can press a button on the remote and it will do smoke as well as sound. So yeah, let's do that. Actually, first I need to dry my desk because it is extremely wet. Okay, so besides it actually looking like a train wreck, it's a lot messier behind here with all the wires and everything, but functionally everything works. So I have, that's backwards, forwards, I have steering, I have this, which is the fan. I also have control over the servo, so I can either turn it on and off like that, or I can take manual control over it, so I can do this. Or this. And I also have a button for the actual like steam. So yeah, all the individual functions are working perfectly. So I need to sort out the wiring, plug in a battery, and hopefully that's all I need to do. It's all done. Doesn't it look good? I've got a nice little PCB board inside of here that holds all the electronics together, and we have all the wires run to that PCB board, and it just, it all works. Mostly. One little caveat is these wheels. They're purely aesthetic, but they do move. I've got a separate N20 motor that actually runs them. I did consider having like a gear thing that runs them off of the main drive wheels, but then I thought, too complicated. And they work all the way up until the first wheels here, which I've had to disconnect from the main system because they get stuck and then they end up stalling the whole thing. So because there's a servo right here where the rod that connects these 2 wheels together would have been, I've cut it in half, and then these 2 wheels are just independent now, so they spin by themselves. For some reason that causes enough of a wibble wobble to actually just stall the whole thing. So they're disconnected, which looks a little bit weird, but I'm willing to live with it. So to actually power this up, we remove the top, which should be screwed in, but it isn't, because this is where I put in my battery. And I'm using one of these 6 volt 2400 milliamp hour batteries. So we can plug that in. It does a little to boot up with. And we can put the battery in here. We can put the roof back on, and then we can turn on the little remote, and we have smoke. We have drive forward, backward, left, right. And we obviously have the, I've tried making that motor quieter. It just doesn't want to be quieter. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this journey of me modifying this adorable little train. I did go off the rails a couple times, but I quite like where I've ended up. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, support me on Patreon if you can, and I'll see you on next week's very special episode. Goodbye.